With the 2024 football season about to kick off for the Sun Devils, there's no better way for us to kick that off than bringing back our guy, Ben Coleman, for yet another installment of Unblocked by Ben Coleman. He's going to give us some insight on fall camp expectations for this early part of the season. Just talk about his excitement to get back on the football field. Ben, my man, thank you so much for joining us once again.
No, I appreciate you guys.
All right, man. Fall camp's over.
Yeah.
Season's here. We're days away from kicking this thing off. Let's take a quick look back at fall camp. How would you evaluate camp for yourself, the team? What are some of the biggest things you learned about yourself and the squad as a whole over this last month or so?
I think I'm getting old. I think the young guys remind me, especially the age group. But it was good. Yeah, fall camp was hard and in a good way. Each and every practice, Coach Dillingham wants us to be, the hardest working team in the country, but having more fun than anybody else in the country. So I think that we definitely nailed that. It was definitely a great balance of hard work and fun. I think for myself, I wanted to be consistent, and I think that's what I was throughout camp. I want to be able to improve, but really more from mental aspect. I think physically, I was able to get comfortable just in spring as far as my, my Achilles and everything. So I think that wasn't really an issue for me. I think it's more about just, getting ready to play, just being consistent each and every day. We have other guys on the offensive line that are similar, right? Lee, Cade, and older guys that are being consistent. And then, counting on Max to make big strides. And then we have other guys, Josh Atkins, that came along real strong right here at the end. So I think that was really important for us to really just gain, chemistry as far as, as offensive line first. I think that's what we really wanted to establish. And then as a unit, as, everything kind of got formalized.
So let's talk specifically about Camp T. A few days up there in the Pines, some cool weather. I would imagine some bonding opportunities, maybe some unique stories, memories, things like that. I'm sure you can't share it all, but what were some of the highlights of Camp T for you?
Well, I think last year I wasn't able to go, hike up Mount Kush. And I think that was really cool this year. Everybody on the entire team went to the top, obviously besides, maybe a few guys that were injured or something like that. But I think that was pretty cool. We had a big speaker. Justin Wiley's part of, an organization called athletes.org. And they, he goes to, different, they host different things. And, he had a giant boom box that, and I think that's the company on it. And so, we talked about it in our cabin, who's going to carry the boom box. And I was like, hey, if I carry it up, somebody got to bring it down. Nobody's like, oh, I'm not going to bring it down. But I guess Scat didn't get that memo. So Scat we heard a loud speaker coming down the hill. And of course, Scat had it. So I think that made it, it was different. Some guys wanted it quiet. Some guys wanted it loud. But I think it was definitely for the experience. So Scat carried that boom box. It had a strap, a crossbody strap. So he just carried it on his back all the way up the hill, all the way down. And on the way down, it was rough. It was rough for a couple of guys. A couple guys might want to tell you guys, they show out. They had no problem. Joe McGinnis can definitely tell you that there was a couple slips and slides. The thing is just fall gracefully. I learned. I heard that Joel Embiid and his doctor said, hey, when you fall, instead of stopping yourself, just fall. Because everybody complains about Joel Embiid's always on the ground. So, I just thought about Joel Embiid and that doctor. So anytime I took a fall, I just didn't try to stop it, didn't try to do too much, just fell right on down. So you definitely had a few slides, but everybody came out healthy, so that's most important.
All right, so just a couple days away from the season opener, and while you, Leaf, and Max have really been the consistent factors throughout camp along that line, looks like we've now finalized with Cade at right guard, and to your left, Josh Atkins. How do you feel the overall chemistry level of the O-line is coming along?
I think it's great. I think that the lineup has been great. I think Josh and I work well together, and I work well together with other guys as well, such as Emmett, because he'll be getting a lot of playing time as well. I think Leaf and I just more about just rebounding kind of off the spring. The spring was the first time we was able to work with each other, and in spring a lot of lineups changed, right? Coach T want to make sure that we're working with different guys. So I think primarily I was with Leaf, the whole camp. And I think that was really important. And then just rotating tackles, seeing which ones, work best to start off this first game and this first lineup. I think that was really important. I'm excited to see the guys, below me take strides. I think Kyle Scott, and everybody would also agree, took some really good strides. Don't be surprised if you see him in the game getting, some key playing time. So that's really important. I'm proud of Kyle, a SoCal guy. We grew up really close and never knew each other, but, grew up really close. And, of course, he's like Max. He was a late bloomer as far as football. Didn't start till late, a JUCO guy just like Max. So I think it's really cool nowadays to see those JUCO guys thrive. So I think it's really important because in the age of, we talked about the transfer portal and everything. So I think it's really cool to see those guys, make it to this level and then also make an immediate impact.
So, of course, the big storyline of fall camp was the quarterback battle. Sam Levitt, QB1, heading into this season. So, now that you've had a fall camp to get to know him a little bit, and what kind of things jump out about him, his leadership style, and the way he commands a huddle?
I think he's excited, and I've seen it since the news has came out that I feel like he's kind of he's still hard on himself, right? Because as a quarterback, you need to be, but he shows up every day. He's happy, he's excited. And it's not that he wasn't during the the duration of fall camp, but I think it was more about when you're in the midst of that QB battle, it's really about, hey, it's me versus these guys. I got to make things happen. But he's always been a smiley guy, right? Big bright smile. So I think we're really excited to have him as our quarterback, and especially having a young guy. I think it's true big brother, little brother system now, right? You have all these older guys on the offensive line protecting you. You have an older running back next to you, right? Whether it be Alto, whether it be Cam, whether it be Delos. You have some older wide receivers. When you think about Malik, you think about Troy, Melquan, right? So everybody surrounding him is older than him. Even JT. So when you put those things together, and maybe I missed, but they may be the same age, but even speaking from experience, JT had a lot of playing time that freshman year. So when you think about that, I think it's going to be really beneficial because we've all played in games, we've all played in big time games, we've all made big time mistakes in those big time games. So then it's important because we'll have his back, and we'll support him. But I think he's a ball of fun, and like I said, I love his confidence. He has a little arrogance to him, and I love it. And I think I can't wait for him to do great. I can't for him to make some young guy mistakes because we're going to be right behind him to pick it up.
All right, man. So step into our shoes for this next question. Get like your analysis hat going on. So who are some players? It could be offense, defense, special teams, anybody who surprised you during fall camp. Who jumped out? Maybe that what you see from them now, what you expect from them for the season at this point is maybe a little different from what you would have said maybe a month ago.
Well, I think if we start with special teams, you talk about Samp. That's what we call him, Zechariah Sample. He's a fast guy. Everybody knows that. But I think it's really important. I love to see him, make some strides. Me being on the punt team, Kenyon Floyd is right behind me, freshman punter. Talked to him in the ice bath earlier. Just a true freshman nervousness. But I told him, I said, hey, you're prepared for the moment. You've earned it. And so I think from special teams wise, that's what I would say. From offensive, of course, everybody talks about Derek Eusebio. Everybody talks about Derek. He's playing that slot wide receiver. He's not the biggest, for sure not the biggest. He's not the fastest, for sure not the fastest. But he's detailed. And, I love to see him, make big time plays. He caught some big time balls, whether that be in Camp T or, especially from I remember in the bubble, big time deep balls. And I don't even see he get to 7-on-7, right? And as far as I hear from 7-on-7, he does great. So I love to see that, right? Young guys, walk on guys, making big time plays. I think that was really important. And I think from defensively, I think I'm really just proud of the D line. I had no problem telling them that Coach Reynolds has helped make big strides to the D line. I told them all to their face. It said spring. I didn't feel like pass rush. You guys really had a plan. I feel like it was very easy. I've seen the transition and the impact that Coach Reynolds has had on each and every one of them. Me and Jeff Clark go head to head all the time, and I think that's a good thing because I didn't always have that, especially from a pass rush perspective. But I love that pass rush, it can be Jeff, and in the run game I can go with Jacob and CJ. And then they'll move Justin Watley down there to play, 3 technique, or he loves to get in a wide 4-eye. But I think it's really important for those guys. I think I'm really more proud of the D-line because that's what I've seen most. And I think another guy, linebacker, Jordan Crook. Me and Jordan Crook, of course, good friends as since he's made the transfer over here. I love to see him grow. He's a fast guy. He's a smart guy. Coach Dillon has said this is a team that really wants to win. I think it's full of a lot of underdogs. Whether everybody be their story is, whether they're ruled ineligible, injury, whether they just didn't play at another school because simply that school, clearly said that they weren't good enough. So I think, if I would say those guys on special teams, Samp, Kenyon Floyd, defensively, I would definitely say the defensive line because I love the strides that they've made, making us better, iron does sharpen iron. And then, as far as offensively, I love to see Derek, run around, make plays.
All right, the Cowboys are coming to town here in just a couple days. Always a very tough, gritty bunch. Now, through your preparation and film study, what kind of jumps out about what this Wyoming Cowboy defense likes to do schematically?
I think, they're disciplined. And I think that's important for a defense. When I played at Cal, it was a lot of things. And a lot of those guys agreed when we played at Cal. It's just, hey, they're very disciplined, right? They're coached well. I think that's also another thing that's very important. Coaching is everything because, when you talk about schemes, everything looks good. But if it's not coached right, it doesn't make a difference. And then I think it goes to the personnel, right? The players you have. So you have the scheme, you have the coaches. Now you talk about the players. And the players just like I said, just blue-collar guys. Obviously, going to Wyoming, they're going to be under-recruited. compared to, right, most likely no Power 5 offers. Go to Wyoming, with a point to prove. They keep everything in front of them. They don't make mistakes, and they were really big on the turnover battle last year. So I think it's up to our defense to force turnovers, and I think it's for us to protect the ball at all costs.
So with each passing day, we get closer and closer to game day. Of course, your first opportunity to step on the field in live action for the Sun Devils. So give us some insight. Tell our listeners and our viewers about what a game day is like for you. From the moment you wake up to the time the ball's kicked off for that game, what are you doing throughout the course of that day?
Well, in the mornings, we, obviously I see the schedule that we have now. I've never experienced it, obviously being at ASU yet, but, primarily every single road night game is the same, or home night game is the same. So based off our schedule, wake up in the morning, the first thing you do is get breakfast, right? Most important meal of the day, fuel. And then we go to a walkthrough, light walkthrough, any adjustments, just a couple different things. And there's a big gap of just downtime. And I think that's a lot of times I just like to watch football, right? I'm sure a lot of other guys would agree, but so I watch other games. I watch other offensive line. What are they doing? What are they doing right? What are they doing wrong? Right? Just some last minute adjustments, of course. Some late film. So those are usually combined, right? Pull out the iPad, watch a little bit of film as it goes to commercial, and the games go back on. Just enjoy it, right? Just like any other Saturday. I know a lot of times they think that we're locked in a box, super laser focused, and I think that's important. But I think that comes with preparation. When you're prepared, on Saturday comes, you can be really relaxed, and then as the game approaches, you kind of feel it. You feel it. So I think for me, it's about being more relaxed. I'm an older guy. Some people are juiced, absolutely juiced. They're off the wall. Some people do energy drinks. I think for me, I'm more of a calm guy. It's kind of how I play. Of course, I want my play on the field to be aggressive and physical, but I think I try to keep a flat line, right? Just stay the same throughout the whole game, because the offensive line is very much up and down. You win reps, you lose reps, but you just got to go the next play and do our job. And I know we're a very important piece of our offense. We look forward to running the ball. So I think for the most part, it's just a lot of downtime, a lot of chill time, and watch a lot of college football, just like everybody else.
All right, so looking ahead to the big matchup against Wyoming on Saturday, you mentioned earlier limiting turnover is going to be an important key. What are some of the other benchmarks of success for you, the offensive line, the offense as a whole, in order to get that W to open the season?
Well, I think we have a new offensive line technically, right? When you talk about it, these are all guys that have been at Arizona State. Obviously besides Josh Atkins. But I think that everybody has not worked together. We have not seen ASU's best offensive line, of course, since Coach Dillingham has been here. So we're excited. I think, most importantly, we want to establish the run game first. And I think that's any offensive line, right? Everybody talks about run the damn ball, but that's really a real thing, really to run the damn ball, because that opens up every single, facet of the game. Besides that, it can be play action pass, it can be deep pass. When you establish that run, it really takes the heart out of the defense. So I think that's something that, we want to pride ourselves on and lean on throughout the season goes, because, anytime you can't defend the run, it becomes just a huge problem, right? Defensively, because it doesn't matter, right? You can run any blitzes, any pressures in the runs. But we feel really confident, and that's something we really want to do, because an offensive line, there's nothing better than run the ball all day long, and then dropping back, hitting a deep pass, play action right over the middle.
And Ben, we know you've got some outstanding NIL partnerships going on. Tell our viewers and listeners what you've got going on in that regard.
Well, I guess first thing is Mac Daddy. Mac Daddy, they sell, chicken wings and mac and cheese. My favorite place. I guess I'm lucky to have the NIL deal. If it wasn't an NIL deal, I would still go there. We're going to do some specials regarding, my number is 62. So stay tuned for those, of course, whether that be, a certain amount of wings and fries for $6.22 or 6 wings and 2 sides. We definitely have some things in the works, but, definitely shout out to Mac Daddy. Preston is the owner there, and ASAP IVs is going to be really important, right? Getting an IV before the game. It says that, the high is going to be 100, and I think that's blessed. And, people would probably think we're crazy, but when it's a high of 100, even this morning, it felt pretty great. It's probably 90 degrees, but a little bit of overcast. And so ASAP IV is another place, Sun Devil alum as well, working there. So I think it's really important to one, hydrate myself, especially with the IV, with throughout the length of the game. I think it'll be really important and beneficial those two places. So of course, fuel up with, of course, on Saturday with Mac Daddy, and then of course I got to get the IV. It's important.
There you go. All right, man. Saturday night, it gets started. We're going to be keeping an eye on you, and all Sun Devil fans will be looking for 62 to be leading the way, leading the charge, opening some gaping holes for the running backs and quarterbacks to run through and get a big Sun Devil victory. Once again, thank you for joining us here for this edition of Unblocked by Ben Coleman. We will certainly be catching up with you down the road.
Go Devils.